Hello everybody, this is CI Fan Channel here. I took this exact bus from Verona to Bologna earlier today, and I nearly missed the bus. I'm not even joking. The stop has moved 500 meters away, and Flixbus did not update me on the tracking app, and I only found it out through an email from 3 weeks ago. They did not even have any follow-up reminders, so I completely forgot about it. Not even forgot about it anyways. In fact, I did not even know about it until last minute. Yeah, with me frantically running and effectively yelling bus, bus, and knocking the door, that got me in. Otherwise I would have been stranded in Verona. Due to the fact today will be extremely hot at 35 degrees Celsius, and plus my hotel allowed me to check in at 1 p.m. and now it is 11:50 a.m. I decided to eat here, right next to the bus station, and over here is my meal, which includes 2 slices of salami pizza and 1 sandwich. I paid €8 for this. After an extremely long lunch break, because it is extremely hot, it is now 2 p.m. and I just checked into the hotel, and take a look at it. This is Michelino 75, and I paid $75 for this hotel room. It is kind of in the outskirts of Bologna, meaning it is a 15-minute walk from the nearest bus, but whatever. At least it is quite decent. In fact, I believe this is the closest you could get to a Western hotel, as there's a big desk, unlike, say, the Ibis budget locations, and you have this. So yes, this could be one of the best hotel rooms I've slept so far. And also, there's free breakfast, and a swimming pool, and a fitness center. I'm not even joking. Way better than some of the other hotels in terms of amenities or guest houses I've slept in. But why not? I'll see you guys in the center of Bologna. I really apologize if I start today extremely late. I left my bags at the hotel, and this is the first attraction I'm going to visit. The Palazzo D'Accursio e Teatro Anatomico, which includes a library, but unfortunately tourists are not allowed to visit. Here are some fun facts about the Palazzo. It was built between 1562 and 1563 under the orders of Cardinal Carlo Borromeo. The Archiginnasio was constructed to bring all the various faculties of the University of Bologna, yes, the oldest university in the world, having been founded in 1088 under one single roof. It served as the main university building until 1803. Today it functions as the city's municipal library and a museum of its own academic history. The building is famous for 2 specific features, one of which is the heraldic coat of arms, and the other is the Teatro Anatomico. As for the heraldic coat of arms, as you walk through the porticos, courtyards, and staircases, almost every square inch of the walls and ceilings is covered in over 6,000 painted stone coat of arms. These were created by students themselves to honor their families, their home countries, and the university professors over centuries of attendance. As for the Anatomical Theatre, it was built in 1637. It is a stunning amphitheatre completely paneled in carved spruce wood, where early medical students watched human dissections. In the center sits a white marble autopsy table. The room is surrounded by wooden statues of famous ancient physicians, including the Spelati, 2 incredibly detailed lifelike wooden sculptures by Ercole Lelli that showcase the intricate layout of human muscles and tendons under the skin. So why not? I'll show you guys the heraldic coat of arms. You can see there are many coat of arms around here. A ton, in fact. Just take a look at the sheer number. It is absolutely mind-boggling, but why not? I'm going to go up to the Palazzo. I'm now in the inside and just see the sheer amount of coat of arms here. I'm now inside the palace, and you can see some books and paintings. And even more. A lot of them have to do with anatomy. But I do have to censor some. But over here is the Stabat Mater Hall. Sorry for the interruptions, I have to show the museum employee my ticket, but you could see a whole array of books, from astronomy to chemistry, and even more coat of arms. Geology, paleontology, zoology, this is mathematics, and yes, it is just a whole array of old books. I exited the Stabat Mater Hall, and over here is the library. Unfortunately, tourists are not allowed to enter the library, aka Biblioteca. Over here is what the interior of the Anatomical Theatre is like. Here is what I learned from the Anatomical Theatre. Between the 17th and 18th centuries, academic practice comprised of the so-called anatomical function, i.e. 16 lectures to be held in winter, starting in January and ending by Carnival. The choice of the winter period was clearly crucial for the preservation of corpses coming either from executed people or low-class diseased patients at the nearby hospitals of Santa Maria della Vita or Santa Maria della Morte. The dissection would in time become a real ceremony that even the city authorities and the noble class of the population could attend at certain times of the year. The Anatomical Theatre ceased to be used when in November 1803 the university moved its seat to what is now Via Zamboni. You will notice that some parts of the wood are dark in color. In 1944, the US Air Force dropped hundreds of bombs on Bologna during one of the many air raids that struck the city during World War II, which happened until 1945. One of the bombs fell on the east wing of the Palazzo, thereby shattering the Anatomical Theatre. The darker wooden parts are the original wooden elements recovered from the debris of the war. One thing I learned is, despite the irregular space of the building is still symmetrical with two specular wings featuring the artistry and legisty staircases. The courtyard with its double loggia, the true fulcrum of the building, is influenced by the architecture of university colleges, the prototype of such places being represented in Bologna by the Colegio di Spagna, aka the College of Spain, but is also reminiscent of the courtyards of the city noble palaces where sumptuous ceremonies were held, even of a public nature. 12 rooms are thus aligned on the first floor. This number refers to the 12 months of the year, to the result of the 4 cardinal points for the 3 planes of the world, to the 12 sons of Jacob, to the 12 gates of New Jerusalem, to the 12 apostles. These harmonic relationships of the architecture and their related symbolic references are nothing but the application of Neoplatonic studies that identify in mathematics the harmony modeled by man. You can see some Latin inscriptions. Also, as for the Stabat Mater room, It was named after Rossini's Stabat Mater, as it was first performed inside this room. I exited the building, and despite the fact it cost 10 euros, meaning it is expensive and only contains 2 rooms, in my opinion, this palace is quite stunning in its appearance. But there is an extremely long audio guide. Luckily there's subtitles, so I just read the subtitles instead of having to bother listening to the audio. Once you go out of the building complex, you can see that the outer perimeter is covered with a portico. Now walking through here is extremely soothing, especially given the fact today is 35 degrees Celsius. I'm not even joking, it is extremely hot. In terms of Fahrenheit, that is 95 degrees Fahrenheit, so close to triple-digit Fahrenheit temperatures. But with the portico, it is absolutely soothing. You can see an even more ornate portico if you cross the road. Let me cross the road and just take a look at it. You can see a few frescoes. It is definitely more ornate than the more Spartan portico seen adjacent to the palace. If you want to know what Archiginnasio means, this is the definition here. It means Archgymnasium or Supreme Gymnasium. So even though the portico adjacent to the Archiginnasio look far more Spartan than this portico with the ornate frescoes, the portico over there is definitely more iconic. Next up, before visiting the Bologna Civic Archeological Museum, I'm going to visit the Basilica di San Petronio, which is over there. I'm now at the site of the San Petronio Basilica, and just seeing the center. Bologna is quite beautiful. And why not? Let me show you the facade of the San Petronio. Over there is a Piazza Maggiore, and here it is, the whole facade. And over there is the clock tower. And why not? I'm gonna buy tickets.
Like that? Like that, yeah. Okay, perfect.
If you want to know what the Basilica of San Petronio is all about, here it is. The Basilica of San Petronio is the massive dominant church facing the south side of Piazza Maggiore. It is one of the largest churches in the world, but its most striking feature is that it looks visibly incomplete. You could see it from the front facade I showed you earlier in the video. The bottom half of the exterior is beautifully clad in white and pink marble, sculpted with intricate reliefs by early Renaissance masters like Jacopo della Quercia. The top half, however, is completely bare, exposed brown brick. In 1390, the citizens of Bologna decided to build a massive basilica to show off the wealth and independence of the city. The original designs were so ambitious that it was supposed to be larger than St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. I'm not even joking. According to historical lore, when Pope Pius II caught wind of this in the 1460s, he blocked the funding and ordered a university building, aka Archiginnasio, over there, to be built right next to it, cut off the church's expansion and leaving it permanently truncated. Inside the dim stone Gothic interior lies the longest interior meridian line in the world, designed by astronomer Gian Domenico Cassini in 1655. It is a brass rod inlaid into the marble floor, running precisely 67 meters long. At exactly solar noon each day, a single beam of sunlight passes through a tiny hole in the roof and strikes the brass line, accurately marking the day of the year and the zodiac sign. And yes, the same Cassini did give the name to the Cassini-Huygens. And another fun fact was that Cassini discovered 4 of Saturn's icy moons, Aeptus, Rhea, Tethys and Dione. However, Saturn's rings and Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, was discovered by Christian Huygens. You can very much see that the facade is kind of half and half here. Adjacent to the Petronio Basilica, you could find this, which is the Palazzo D'Accursio. It is located on the western edge of the Maggiore Square. And Palazzo D'Accursio is a massive fortress-like complex that has served as the absolute seat of Bologna's political and municipal power since 1336. It wasn't built all at once. It started off around 1250 as the private residence of Accursio de Bagnolo, a highly wealthy and influential law professor at the University of Bologna. The city eventually bought the estate from his family, combined it with neighboring properties, and turned it into the public palace for the city's highest magistrates, aka the elders, and later the papal governor. The exterior features a prominent bronze statue at the very center of Pope Gregory XIII, a Bolognese native who introduced the Gregorian calendar, above the Porto. Inside you can climb the Scalinata dei Cavalli, aka the staircase of the horses, a grand wide ramp designed by Bramante so that city officials could ride their horses directly up the grand ceremonial halls on the upper floors, including the magnificent frescoed Sala Farnese. Attached to the building is this, which is the clock tower. The clock tower visibly rises from the left side of the palace facade facing the square. The tower itself was originally built as part of Accursio's private home in the 13th century. When the city took over, they decided to convert the private defense tower into a public monument. In 1444, a massive mechanical clock was installed on its front face to dictate the daily schedule of the city. The clock dial is enormous, measuring 6.4 meters across, making it one of the largest clock faces in Italy. To fit the massive gear mechanisms and height systems inside, the tower had to be physically raised by an extra 10 meters in the 15th century and topped with a small distinct architectural turret. Over here is what the full view of the clock looks like, and you can see a flag of both the EU and Italy on the clock, as well as near the Pope. Given the fact the ticket counter of the Civic Archeological Museum would close at 6 and I bought tickets, therefore I could enter the Archaeological Museum at any time before like 6:30 or 6:45. And I'm now entering this palace over here, and you can see it is absolutely dope. And over there is the Piazza Maggiore. I'm going to go there later, but I'm now entering this palace. And yes, you can see some Turkey and Gaza posters. And over here is the courtyard. And over here is the map. Unfortunately, I would not have enough time to visit the art collection or the clock tower, as tomorrow I will visit the Uffizi in Florence. And there are many art museums in Florence, so why not? I'm gonna save the art museums for tomorrow or the next several days, especially in Florence and Rome. We'll be visiting the Vatican and the Vatican museums. But this is what the courtyard looks like, and why not? I'm going to discuss to you guys about the Maggiore. But yes, this building in Bologna holds some of the oldest mechanical clock towers, alongside the Horloge in Prague, aka the Astronomical Clock, the Zeitclock in Bern, Switzerland, and the Salisbury Cathedral Clock in England. But unfortunately, I have been to the former two, but not the latter. Immediately outside both the Basilica and the Accursio Palace is this, which is the Piazza Maggiore, a hub of Bologna since the Middle Ages. In the northwest corner of the square, you will see a splinter square called the Piazza del Nettuno, which features the fountain. The square was built in the 12th century, and one of the main fountains is the Fountain of Neptune, a model example of Mannerist taste of the Italian courtly elite in the mid-16th century. The construction of the fountain was commissioned by the Cardinal Legate Charles Borromeo to symbolize the fortunate recent election of Borromeo's uncle as Pope Pius IV. To clear space for the fountain, an entire edifice had to be demolished. The design and assembly of the fountain was completed by the Palamitan architect Tommaso Loretti in 1563. If you don't know Palamitan, it means some resident of Palermo, which is down in Sicily. The fountain was completed in 1565. The over life-size bronze figure of the god Neptune was completed and fixed in place around 1566. The statue was an early design by Bologna, who had submitted a model for the Fountain of Neptune in Florence, but had lost the commission to Baccio Bandinelli. There is a quirk on the Roman numerals inscripted on the fountain, as even though it says 1564, it was truly finished in 1566. And if you want to see Gregory the 13th, here it is, a closer view of Gregory the 13th. And I'm not sure what that red and white flag symbolize. I believe it is the flag of Bologna, but it might be wrong. But you can see the fountain in its full glory. And you can see water. It is absolutely refreshing to be here, especially in hot weather. Yes, you would see some date idiosyncrasy over here, but Bologna looks absolutely impressive. And over there is Sala Borsa, which is a library. Over here you can see a plaque showing the victims of fascist terrorism. I'm not sure, but it does say Italian train, Bologna station, and train 904. But here you can see thousands of images of people, and just scan the QR code and you're redirected to this site over here. And many of these people actually died fighting against fascism. Yes, against Benito Mussolini's regime and Adolf Hitler's regime. You could see some of the events here. Of course, in 1943, Benito Mussolini was ousted from power as the king voted no confidence. But Adolf Hitler installed him as a puppet leader, and Benito Mussolini, between 1943 and 1945, led the quote-unquote Republic of Salo. And this was 7 days before his execution. And you can see war and stuff. But unfortunately, many of these partisans were killed. It is just so unfortunate seeing the amount of lost lives here. And over here is what the interior of the Sala Borsa looked like. I'm not sure if I could go in as a tourist, but I might stop here. I think this is the ultimate gray zone, as there's a bar. So over here is the interior. In 1922, Benito Mussolini seized power in Italy and that inspired the young Adolf Hitler to do the same. And in 1923 he attempted the beer hall putsch to overthrow the Weimar government, but he was arrested for insubordination and treason, and he served 9 months at the Landsberg prison before being released in 1925. After the release, Adolf Hitler started to decide to use democratic means to overthrow democracy, and he succeeded. By the time Adolf Hitler gained power, the tables were completely reversed. Benito Mussolini used to be seen as the elder mentor to Adolf Hitler, but because Adolf Hitler inherited a heavily industrialized country, while half of Italy, aka much of southern Italy, was predominantly agrarian, therefore Mussolini became the quote-unquote junior partner, and that could be exemplified with the battles in Ethiopia and the campaigns in the Balkans, where Mussolini felt dramatically, and Hitler was later viewed as the senior partner. I'm not even joking. It is absolutely hilarious. Of course, the reason why Adolf Hitler remained in power up until the very end of World War II, whilst Mussolini was ousted, was because Hitler was not only the head of government, he was also the head of state, meaning he had total control over the country, and anybody below him like Himmler and Goebbels were effectively subordinates. But as for Mussolini, there was still a king of Italy, so of course the king could vote no confidence and oust Mussolini from power. But even though Mussolini could be ousted by the king at a vote of no confidence, an allied coalition necessitates the downfall of Adolf Hitler. But anyways, it is now 6:15 p.m. and I'm going to enter the Civic Archeological Museum, and here's some information about the Civic Archeological Museum. Located next to the Palazzo Galvani, this museum houses one of the most important antiquity collections in Italy. It maps the history of Bologna from deep prehistory up through the Roman Empire. The collection is organized into a few major zones, including Etruscan Bologna, the Celtic and Roman collections, and the Egyptian section. So why not? I'm going to go in to the museum. Unfortunately, all the text is in Italian, but over here is a chronological era map. We're starting off in ancient Egypt. But over here you can see several Egyptian reliefs and pillars, and even more. But these were predominantly from the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt, and over there show the 19th to 25th. You can see a finger ring of Horemheb and a stela here. Now this is the stela of Patener, co-priest of Horemheb. I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciations, but over here is the description. And over here show Egyptian scenery. And we're now entering the Old Kingdom. Unfortunately, even though the descriptions have English translations, most of the big chunks of text are completely in Italian. Like this plaque over here. And in this wing you can see more artifacts, from mummies to the Sphinx to tombs. And over here are cutlery and silverware and plates and dishes. And you can see more pottery and sculptures. And over here is a model boat scale. And over here I believe is a tomb of some sort. And now we're entering the Middle Kingdom, where you can see more artifacts, including a few reliefs and stelas, and of course vases. And over here is the New Kingdom. Figurines, mummies. Over here is the final wing of the Egyptian exhibition. And over there is papyrus. This is of course in hieroglyphs, but I'm not sure what this alphabet is. But just take a look around. You could also see a statue of Osiris. And this is what an Egyptian funeral typically looks like. I'm now heading outside to the courtyard. And over here is what the portico looks like. And why not? I'm going to enter the Etruscan and Roman exhibitions if I can. Unfortunately, there's only 20 minutes remaining. I'm not even joking. But you can see a dome and fountain. And this is what the terrace and courtyard looks like for the museum. But here you can see several pillars, inscriptions, reliefs, stelas, and more, even within this outside perimeter alone. I'm at the gift shop and you can see several statues and busts. The busts are technically located in the cloakroom. I'm now halfway between the first and second floor, and over here is a statue of Neptune by Jean Bologna. I'm now in the Etruscan exhibition, and you can see a vase here. Now this depicts the Trojan War, I believe so, according to the museum guide. But you can see a lot more pottery over here. And finally, despite the fact the Egyptian section was nearly entirely in Italian, aside from the description of each item, the thing is, I saw in this section, they're both Italian and English. Unfortunately, these sections are closed, but I'll show you guys around. It is absolutely impressive at how many items there are. And fun fact, if you're under 26 years old, the tickets only cost $2. I meant €2, I'm sorry. But if you're an adult, then tickets likely cost €6. But if you're a student, whether undergrad or graduate, admission is free. I'm not even joking. And if you want to know my age, I'm in my mid-20s. I was born in the early 2000s. And you can see many exhibitions and artifacts. The list is absolutely impressive. I'm sorry if I have to go fast. There's only 5 minutes remaining until the museum closes, but you can see some depictions and paintings here, and even more busts. And of course, more pottery. And even more. And that should be it. I'm gonna leave the museum now. Unfortunately, I have to leave the museum and I might not be able to show you every single exhibition, but in my opinion, this museum is of an amazing value proposition, especially if you're 25 or under, or especially if you're a student. Given the fact students don't have to pay anything. And yes, I'm talking this as a young man born in the early 2000s. I left the Piazza Maggiore altogether, and over here are the two towers. They are the absolute architectural symbol of Bologna. They stand right at the intersection of the ancient roads that led out through the city's old medieval walls. During the 12th and 13th century, as many as 100 defensive stone towers exist, but these are the most extreme of all. Wealthy noble families built them as private fortresses for protection during civil feuds, but mostly as massive vertical status symbols to show off their power. Today, only about 20 survive, and these two are the most famous because they lean dramatically. The Asinelli Tower is the tall of the two, as you guys can see, rising to a height of about 97.2 meters. It was built between 1109 and 1119 by the Asinelli family. The city eventually bought it in the 14th century to use as a military watchtower and a prison. While it looks straight next to its neighbor, it actually leans to the west by about 2.2 meters. Inside there is a wooden staircase with 498 steps leading to a roof platform that gives a panoramic view of the entire city and the surrounding hills. The Garisenda Tower stands next to the Asinelli, but it stands at 48 meters, 8 meters shorter than that of the Leaning Tower of Pisa and significantly shorter than the Asinelli. However, it is famous because its lean is incredibly egregious. Built around the exact same time as the Asinelli, the Garisenda family tried to match their rival's height. However, during construction, the soft alluvial soil beneath the foundation shifted and began to sink under the weight. By the mid-14th century, the tower was leaning so heavily that engineers feared it would collapse onto the surrounding buildings. To prevent a catastrophe, local authorities physically chopped off the top half of the tower, shortening it from its original height of around 60 meters down to what it is today. It currently leans at a drastic angle of about 4 degrees, offsetting the top by over 3 meters. Its extreme tilt was so famous in the Middle Ages that Dante Alighieri wrote about it in Canto the 31st of his Inferno, comparing the terrifying tilt of a giant leaning over him to the sight of looking up at the Garisenda when a cloud passes over it. And here is one fun fact about Garisenda. It leans more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm not even joking. Because of restoration efforts throughout the 1990s, the Leaning Tower of Pisa went from a 5.5% tilt to a 3.99 degree tilt. So yes, that meant the Garisenda over there tilts more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It is absolutely shocking how many tourists visit Pisa. But this is relatively overlooked compared with Pisa. But over here is the scenery of Bologna, and why not? I'm gonna show you guys the tower. Over here it is. You might be shocked at how much this actually tilts. It is absolutely serene that it tilts more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And yes, I believe it is temporarily closed, likely for renovations. But you can see it is absolutely insane. Over here is a piece of text, and let me show you the English translation. Consolidation and restoration of the Garisenda Tower made safe. That meant they're now ameliorating the tilt from an egregious 4 degrees to something more reasonable, like say this, which is the Asinelli over here. But yes, due to the fact the lean at Pisa is famously notorious, therefore it got the treatment before, and restoration did not happen until maybe a few months ago to a few years ago. But I'm not sure if I could go into any of the dual towers. Possibly not. Just a 5-minute walk away from the Leaning Towers of Bologna is this, which is the Basilica Santuario Santo Stefano Complesso delle Sette Chiese. And over here is what the basilica looks like. Unfortunately, it will close in about 1 or 2 minutes, so I might not be able to go in. Fortunately, I was wrong. Even though Google Maps stated it will close at 19:30, in fact, I went in and recorded the basilica. Unfortunately, I have to be silent, but yeah, that is a view of the basilica. Over here are some fun facts about the Basilica Santuario Santo Stefano. It is known locally as Le Sette Chiese, aka the Seven Churches, because it is not just a single basilica, but a labyrinthine complex of interconnected chapels, crypts, and courtyards built over different centuries. The design was intended to replicate the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, originally constructed over a pagan temple dedicated to the Egyptian goddess Isis. The complex expanded over the Middle Ages into a sprawling interconnected layout. There are several key structures, which include the Church of the Crucifix, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Church of St. Vitus and Agricola, and the courtyard of Pilate. And as for the Church of the Crucifix, this is the main 8th century Lombard church. You enter first, which is this one, the church I showed you guys earlier in the video. It features a high altar positioned above a raised choir, which looks directly down onto an open crypt below, holding ancient relics. As for the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, this is the heart of the complex, built in the 5th century AD. It features a circular polygonal layout surrounded by ancient marble columns. In the center sits a large monument mimicking the tomb of Christ, which visitors can walk entirely around. The oldest church in the cluster is the Church of St. Vito and Agricola, dating to the 4th century AD. It has a completely plain rustic brick interior containing the original stone sarcophagi of 2 early Christian martyrs, built out of recycled Roman columns and capitals. And the last I'm going to tell you is the courtyard of Pilate. Moving through the buildings leads to an open-air medieval cloister. In the center sits a large stone basin known as the Catino di Palato, a 13th century Lombard artifact. The courtyard connects the individual chapels to a 2-story Romanesque monastery cloister at the back. And there are 3 more, but I'm not going to tell you guys. I'm now walking to the very final destination of the day, and that is the Basilica of San Domenico. But first off, let me show you this. Because inside you will see the Chiesa San Giovanni in Monte and the University of Bologna Linguistics Center. Okay guys, it is now 8 p.m. Unfortunately, the basilica is closed, but I did get to spend a few minutes inside the Basilica, and you can see it is under renovation. Despite being under renovation, it is still open to both prayers and visitors alike. But over here is a column, and you can see the full view of the Basilica over here. The Saint Dominican Basilica, and of course construction cranes. I'm not even joking. But anyways, here's some fun facts about the San Domenico Basilica. It is one of the most historically and artistically significant churches in Bologna. It serves as the global headquarters of the Dominican order, and it was built between 1228 and 1240 to house the remains of Saint Dominic of Osma, the founder of the order, who died in Bologna in 1221. Whilst the exterior retains an austere Romanesque brick facade, the interior is a massive showcase of Renaissance art and architectural evolution. Here are some key features of the Basilica. As for the Arca di San Domenico, it is located in a dedicated side chapel. This is the magnificent marble tomb holding Saint Dominic's remains. It is a collaborative masterpiece built over centuries. The main sarcophagus was sculpted by Nicola Pisano. The grand canopy was added later by Niccolo dell'Arca, and a young Michelangelo sculpted 3 small stone statues for it in 1494. An angel holding a candlestick, St. Proclus, and St. Petronius. There are also wooden choir stalls located behind the high altar. This inlaid wooden choir was crafted by Fra Damiano da Bergamo between 1528 and 1551. It is considered one of the finest examples of Renaissance wood intarsia in the world, featuring incredibly detailed perspective scenes from the Old and New Testaments that mimic paintings using only different shades of natural wood. The third important feature is the mystical marriage of St. Catherine. The church houses several prominent Renaissance paintings, including a famous 1501 masterpiece by Filippo Lippi in the Gasparini Chapel. And then the last fun fact is the square tombs. The brick piazza outside the church is unique for its preserved medieval layout. It features 2 prominent raised stone tombs resting on stone pillars, which house the remains of medieval law professors who taught at the University of Bologna. And yes, it is absolutely impressive, but unfortunately it is closed and under renovation, so I cannot show you guys all the details of this Dominican church. Given the fact it is now 8:30, let me show you the clock. As you guys can see, I'm now eating here, Anglo B, near the San Domenico Basilica, and I'm thinking of eating tagliolini, pesto di basilico, fagiolini, croissanti, teriyaki. The meal hasn't come out yet, but over here are slices of bread, and luckily this restaurant gave me a free glass of water. Over here is what my entree looks like. I finished eating at the restaurant. I'm now waiting for the bus, and here are 2 important facts about Bologna. First off, Bologna has tons of porticos, 40 kilometers worth of them. Second off, for the towers, it has been under renovation for 2.5 years already, and it is set to finish in the next 10 years. I'm not even joking, and the cost will be 20 million euros. I returned to the hotel, and I'm now going to discuss about the University of Bologna. In Italian, the University of Bologna is called Alma Mater Studiorum Università di Bologna, and it is the oldest university in continuous operation in the world, and the first degree awarding institution of higher learning, having been founded in 1088 AD. That was when teaching began, with the university becoming organized as Universitas Scholarum, or guilds of students, by the late 12th century. It was not only the first university to award males a degree, the university saw the first female earn a university degree and teach at a university, aka Letizia Gozzadini. And you have Laura Bassi, who was the first female to earn both a doctorate in science and a salary profession as a university professor. Even though according to QS, the University of Bologna is only ranked in the top 150 and not even in the top 100, let alone top 5, which include stuff like Harvard, MIT, or Oxford or Cambridge. The thing is, there are many, many historical alumni, including Dante Alighieri, Nicholas Copernicus. Yes, the person who postulated the heliocentric theory, and many, many more, including Italian prime ministers, popes, Umberto Eco, and Enzo Ferrari. Here is an exhaustive list, and the University of Bologna is one of the largest universities in all of Europe, containing 90,000 students. Unfortunately, despite the fact I heavily spent time in the center of Bologna, I did not get to visit any car museums at all, even though I'm a car buff. In fact, several major automotive headquarters are located within 50 kilometers of Bologna, including Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Ducati, and the Ducati Museum is in the outskirts of Bologna. Over here is one example, aka the Ferrari Museum. Over here is another example, the Lamborghini Museum. And you also have the Ducati Museum. On a straight line, it is 6.7 kilometers, so about 4 miles. That meant it is effectively a shame that, given the fact I'm a car buff, I did not visit any car museums. But the reason for it is I only have one day in Bologna, and I want to spend time in the city center because Bologna is quite idiosyncratic. So here's the verdict. Is Bologna worth it? And is it underrated? In my opinion, yes it is. I would rate it between underrated and correctly rated, given the fact there's so many tourists. But over here's my hotel, Michelino 75. I paid 75 US dollars. And funnily, it is 75 via Michelino. Let me show you. Yes, over here is the main road. And it is slightly far, as I have to walk 15 minutes just to get to the nearest bus. But here is the reason why I rave Bologna so much. Not only does it include the oldest university in the world and effectively the oldest college town, it also includes 2 idiosyncratic towers out of 100, most of which were destroyed, meaning Bologna was the New York City of the Middle Ages. I'm not even joking. Not only do you have the university and the 2 towers, you also have the Dominican Order headquarters here. And the good thing is there is no tourist traps. Even though some attractions like art museums might be expensive, the thing is Bologna is heavily subsidized if you're 25 or under, and especially if you're a student, either an undergrad or graduate student, like say the Archaeological Museum, where you can effectively enter for free if you're a university student of any capacity in any country. And Bologna's character is also unique. And the city looks unique compared with other Italian cities. Just take a look from the first X minutes of the video, and you can see not only are there a lot of porticos, but the building style is also different from a typical Italian city, making it very worthy to visit. And even though there are a lot of crowds, which is the reason why I demoted Bologna to underrated to correctly rated, the thing is Bologna has a lot to do. And it will take you around 2 to 3 days to finish all of Bologna. But in my opinion, it is very much worth it. You could even visit many major attractions in just one day. And food in Bologna is relatively affordable, where you could pay 5 to 10 euros for a modest meal and 10 to 20 euros for an Italian dish. Like I did for 13 euros, where I got a pasta and multiple slices of bread. Very much worth it, especially for a European city. And plus, Bologna is the food capital. It is the birthplace of tagliatelle al ragu, tortellini, and mortadella. Yes, mortadella is bologna. You heard it correctly. In the US, many people would call like Bologna meat bologna. So there you go, that is my verdict. Thank you guys for watching. Please give a big thumbs up, subscribe for more videos. I'm gonna see you guys soon, and if you were to go from either Milan or Venice to Florence, do not skip Bologna. Of course, we know Bologna is overlooked compared to the likes of Milan, Venice, Florence, Rome, and Naples.